Hello, my snacks. Welcome back. My name is Jack, and it is very lovely to see you all again. Appreciating all your lovely little comments of support and love for me returning after a little bit of a weekly holiday. It is just one story today we're checking out, but there are a lot of updates, and oh man, it's a cluster flunk of a family dynamic, I'll tell you what. My sister revealed a secret, and I don't know what to do about it. Beginning back in November last year. So I, 28 female, don't really know how to start this, so I'll start from the beginning. I come from a really dysfunctional family and always grew up around chaos, drama, and abuse of all sorts. Being yelled at and living violence was our normal daily life. My two younger sisters, 24 and 21, are the daughters of the man making us live through hell and back. I'll call them respectively Anne and Steph, fake names. Growing up, I was always closer to the older sister Anne, since we've been through the same type of abuse from the same man. Steph, the younger sister, was my mum's favorite, so even though she lived some trauma too, it wasn't as much, or so I thought. Becoming adults, things shifted. Anne moved to another city that was kinda close, so I only saw her on holidays and that type of stuff. Steph, though, we became closer every year. I realized that she felt like being kept apart most of her life, and despite living less violence than Anne and I, she went through her share of load of BS too. Recently, I went to see her with my girlfriend, and she felt comfortable to reveal some childhood secrets I didn't expect. Anne abused her from when she was 6 years old to when she turned 11. She never spoke about this to anyone. After 10 years, she finally felt secured enough in our relationship to talk about it. At first, I wasn't surprised, really. Anne always had issues with being too sexual even when she was only 9 years old. She would be kicked out of schools because of her behavior, but we never thought she did that behavior at home. She told us Anne forced her to get eaten out, watch porn, learn how to sleep with men and women when she was only 6-ish years old, and even more. To say I was shocked is an understatement. I still don't know what to do about it. I know Anne had that kind of abuse going on with her birth mother, and her father abused her in that way for 3-ish years, but I didn't know she repeated the pattern with my younger sister. I'm torn between wanting to beat the hell out of her and understanding where she comes from. I'm not condoning at all what happened and what she did. I mean, knowing everything she's been through, I understand why she did it. Hurt people, they say, right? But what do you do when it's your sister?
I'm sorry, what? It's great that you're being like, I understand why this happened, but you're not saying enough of but it's still gross that it did. She hasn't been punished for her crimes yet. It's still too early to give sympathy towards Anne here.
I want to tell my mom, but I don't want to make my already dysfunctional family implode even more than it did before. We were just starting to become united like a family is supposed to be. We were healing, slowly, but still. Now I just don't know what to do outside of being present for my baby sister and giving her all the support that I can. So most interesting bit of advice at the time, I used to work with a childhood SMEX therapist, and she told me that repeating the behaviors done to you on your siblings is a coping mechanism and a comfort behavior a child will continue for years after if not watched over carefully. It is her fault, but it's not. She was a child doing what she knew. They are both victims, even though it may be hard to see because one is also an offender. If anything, I would talk to your sister if you can and find out if this is something that continued into adulthood. And yeah, unfortunately, that is a very valid point. Anne wasn't an adult when she was doing all this stuff to Steph. She was also just a kid, a child. Sure, she was a few years older, but only a few years older. She was basically groomed to believe this is something all kids do, just curiously, on their own lonesome time. Now, obviously, some connections and family ties here are a bit confusing, so the OP comes back in an update in the comments. Also, wanting to defend Anne just for a few factors. So Anne is not my biological sister. We don't have the same father or mother. My biological mother adopted her after learning the abuse she went through with Anne's biological mother and her biological fathers. This man is my mom's ex, who physically abused me for years, and he also fathered my baby sister. So Anne and Steph are half-sisters, just like Steph and I are from our mother, but I have no biological link to Anne. I hope this is more clear. And to understand what Anne went through as early as 5 years old, her mother made her take cocaine. At 6, she was forced to watch videos of her mom getting railed in threesomes and foursomes, and at 7, she was forced to participate for the preliminary. At 8, she started to participate for real, and that's when her father got the legal rights over her. So she moved to her father's house
where the abuse continued until she was 11. At that age, she ran to my mother's house to confess to the abuse, and my mom started all the legal procedures to adopt her. At 12, my mom officially had all the legal rights to her. At first, Anne didn't want to talk at all, but after a few months, she felt the need to confess. So my mom made her see a therapist around her 13th birthday. At 14, she stopped abusing my baby sister, and we started seeing big changes in her attitude. So God, at 6 years old, made to watch content of your parent. Oh, nah, man, that's...
Boo, hello, Editor Jack here, just overdubbing this part because I mistakenly assumed that it seemed like here the mum knew about the abuse because Anne's confessing it. But no, Anne's confessing the abuse she received, not that she committed yet.
Opie continues on to say that, look, at the end of the day, she did disgusting things, but she doesn't think it makes her a monster or a predator. Yes, she's had narcissistic behaviors as any other person does around that age or just growing up in general, but nothing too serious. In fact, throughout her young dating life, she was always abused by her exes too, and would have to be reminded by OP that that's not what she has to accept and tolerate. But unfortunately for her, it's all she ever knew. Reminding people that, again, while this is horrifying to know of, she was 9 when it all started and stopped when mum was putting her in therapy. End of the day, she was just a kid repeating what she has seen for her whole life until that point. As to the situation itself, I talked with Steph and she's comfortable to open the topic with my mother. We don't want to involve our older siblings because their reactions aren't 100% predictable, and we don't want to start a nuclear war in the family. We're taking this step by step and going at my sister's pace. So it's just under a month later, we get an update before Christmas. My baby sister and her heavy secret. Mum knows. So we spoke to my mum about the actual abuse and did to my baby sister. For those who wanted an update, I don't think it's the happy story you wanted. My mum didn't have the best reaction either. You remember I told you I come from a dysfunctional background? Well, it hit again. My mum blew a fuse, but didn't even contact Anne. She keeps the rage boiling inside of her and she's about to blow up. To say she was angry is an understatement. She started yelling, insulting Anne and Steph, and I just stood there. It's like she missed the whole point of the situation and decided to throw out the rage 3 people should have felt instead of just her. She still invited Anne for the Christmas dinner in 3 days, and to confront her in front of the whole family. I'm mortified. She's basically going to ridicule her in front of the whole family at the family Christmas reunion. I still can't wrap my head around it. I mean, I didn't want to talk to Anne about it just yet. I wanted Steph to give me the permission to do so, but she doesn't seem 100% against the idea of ridiculing Anne in front of everyone. I also don't want to react and tell her, making my sister feel like I'm on her abuser's side. It's not the case, but it doesn't feel right to just sit with that thought and not do anything. So now I'm stuck between 2 chairs. Either I say nothing and watch Anne get bashed probably by my whole family on Christmas Eve, or I say something and I might ruin the trust my baby sister has finally gained from me while also making my mother turn Super Saiyan. Merry Christmas to me, I guess. Yeah, what do? You really gonna deny a victim's retribution? Like, you can argue there's some sort of moral thing here that's going wrong, that this shaming intervention the mother wants to do here isn't actually going to resolve anything. It's just going to give the mother a feeling of power and control over the situation, like, I fixed it. As a mother, I fixed my family. I got rid of the rot. But that's just passing off the responsibility that you had to protect your own children. I don't know, like, what do you do here? And that's the thing, there's actually comments that really are on Anne's side here. To be honest, I think you need to tell Anne not to show for Christmas and tell her why. To bring this up at a family dinner at Christmas is horrific and can't possibly help anyone. Going on to say that, yeah, shaming Anne isn't the right way to go. If anything, the shaming should be on your mother for allowing it to all happen in the first place, and if Steph really wants to confront Anne, then it should be done in private. Like, sure, Steph's mental health isn't doing too good and deserves some sort of justice, but we really think Anne's mental health doesn't deserve any consideration here either? Now look, a consideration to the mother here, though, is as OP comments, and also, unsurprisingly, it seems that her own mother has actually dealt with things like rape as well, believing that the reaction of the mother is basically from the fact that she's been through that and she never wanted her lastborn to go through the same thing. She always protected Steph so much. As we did learn in the original post, she was the golden child. And then you find out the girl you adopted into the family, she was corrupting and abusing the child favorite. I mean, yeah, look, kind of makes sense that the mother wants to absolutely destroy Anne's reputation and any sort of support this family was originally giving her. Well, it is until 5 days days after that original update that we get the second one. Naturally, it's been after Christmas now, and the fallout that happened, folks, oh boy. So I think I left the story when my mom went crazy and decided to still invite my sister to the Christmas party. But those of you who asked me to tell Anne, I didn't have the heart to go against what my baby sister asked me to do, which was saying nothing. But I talked to my mom before the Christmas party. I made sure Steph wouldn't be around since she still lives with my mother, and I tried talking it out. I'm paraphrasing because I stayed around 3 hours talking with her. So between the rage, fits, the tears, the insults, and coming back to reality, there's a lot of stuff that happened. At first, my mom accused me of being as worse as Anne since I'm taking her side, so I had to remind her that I wasn't. I just felt stuck between two chairs and I hated the feeling. She hit me with the, imagine if your baby daughter has been abused by the non-blood related daughter you welcomed into your house. And I had to admit, she had a point. So I told her, that daughter you welcomed took every pieces of advice in the therapy you sent her to, and she stopped her wrongdoings. But she said it was too late because it still happened. Seeing that no matter what, my mom would try to make her look like a victim seeking revenge on Christmas, I had to hit her where it hurts so she can realize how stupid it would be and how much it would hurt the whole family. So basically what I said is, how would you react if on Christmas I told the whole family that your ex, father of your youngest, used to beat me up every day for 10 years and you didn't do anything about it? How would you feel? The room became silent, but like a loud silence. It was so weird. She stayed there, looking at a wall and didn't say anything for a good 5 minutes before saying it wasn't the same. No, it wasn't the same, but it would have the same repercussions. But for her. After talking about it, she accepted to not confront Anne in front of everybody and to keep the Christmas spirit alive and joyful for this year. So Anne did come at Christmas, but Steph wasn't happy at all. She ended up drinking a lot of the different alcoholic beverages we had around, so you can imagine her mood. She was grumpy, snappy, and hating the entire world. And I understand her. I just made sure to never leave Anne and Steph alone. I was always between the two. So between Steph saying mean things to Anne and Anne not understanding why she was attacked, I had to take Anne apart. So I went for a walk with Anne that felt the mood being off. Mind you, there's now my mother, my girlfriend, my big brother, and I all aware of what happened, and it was showing. Anne kept repeating that she didn't understand why everyone was cold and distant. I had to keep my promise, so I told her, you know how the family is. We're always at each other's throat. And that's when Anne told me she had a Christmas breakfast with her biological mother the next day and she wasn't feeling it. That's why she decided to smoke a joint during the walk. When you take everything together, she was about to explode herself. But what she told me though, I still don't know how to react. Again, I'm paraphrasing because it's easier this way, and at that point, I had a few drinks under my belt. I know my bio mother wasn't the best, and she made me learn really awful things. That made me do awful things, but I don't know how I can deal with it. Our mom did her best, and I still feel like I broke something up without knowing I was breaking it at that time. That's when I knew Steph wasn't lying or exaggerating about what happened. Despite that, I still gave Anne the warmest hug and told her she didn't need to tell me what she did. It's Christmas, and we can talk about it once the holidays are done. When we came back, my mom went for Anne's throat in a private room for smoking, and that's when I told her, half the people here are drunk. They ain't better. Piss off. She looked at me like I just betrayed her, and when it was time to eat, my mom really tried to make the whole dinner go to trash. You see, I have a big family and not enough room so everyone can eat together. Therefore, she had to make 2 tables, meaning she had to separate some people. It was the perfect moment to keep Anne and Steph apart, but of course, she didn't. On her first drafts, she decided to put them together and said, well, there's no room to change the order. So, behind her back, I decided to switch Steph so that they could eat apart and enjoy the food without having to look at Anne the whole time. Mind you, everywhere you looked, I made sure they weren't in the same room so there wasn't any room for confrontation. After the dinner and unwrapping the gifts, my baby sister went to sleep. She was exhausted and clearly way too drunk to keep her composure. Anne left shortly after and we ended up being with only my mom and my brother. My brother is basically on my side. We both want the best for our family and recognize that we must talk about the elephant in the room, just not now. My mom ended up kicking me out for clearly being on Anne's side and that she couldn't believe I was on my baby sister abuser's side. Honestly, at this point, I'm just exhausted. With the rest of the post just kind of expressing this exhaustion and the point that they really don't know what to do from here. So there's kind of three sides to this story right now. Team Mother, who wants to resolve everything with divine punishment. Steph, who kind of wants the same, but not just to protect her skin like the mother does. And Anne, who, while the perpetrator, is also a victim in their own right. And well, folks, it's this January update that probably won't make you as much on Anne's side as you originally might have been. Starts off with a huge little, I guess, recap on all the things that have happened, beginning with how they started things off in January by having a little mother-daughter day, basically just trying to have a normal day together without all this chaos going on around them, and that despite how much of a dragon their mother seems to come across in all these updates and stories, Opie assures us she's not. She's just super protective and that she's borderline, so sometimes she has difficulties managing her emotions, but she's really just a good woman with flaws like anyone else. She even apologized for how she acted during Christmas and wanting to blow up celebrations. Now, she also had a talk with Anne. They didn't talk about the abuse, but for some reason, Anne decided to trash talk my girlfriend for some flaws that she does have, but is currently working on since she's aware of it. She made fun of old pictures of her when she was overweight, but was still psychologically anorexic, claiming,
"Wasn't she anorexic? Because she looks fat as hell in that picture."
is basically what she said, and my mom felt like I needed to know that Anne said that. My mom assured me that when the conversation turned to that, she made some BS excuses to hang up the phone because she was so uncomfortable with her behavior since my mom also struggled with an eating disorder growing up. So she knows being anorexic ain't only about the weight, but mostly about the relationship someone has with food. This doesn't seem to make a connection to the essay story, but bear with me, it's gonna explode soon. When I came back home, I told my girlfriend I'd have a call with my sister for how she spoke about her. I didn't want to tell her what she said since my girlfriend is still struggling with an eating disorder. It's not as bad as before since we're working on it, but she still has a bad vision of her body, so I didn't want her to be triggered. I ended up telling her, which she took really nicely for how rude my sister was, and asked to be like a ghost on the call, but still present to hear what she had to say. So when I called her, I put her on speakerphone and talked really calm, nicely, and tried to turn around the bushes because I never know how Anne will be acting when confronted with something bad she has done. I'll paraphrase a little because the call was short, but escalated really quickly. "Hey Anne, so I've heard you had a conversation with Mom?
Yeah, why?
How did it go?"
Good. Why?
"Because I've heard some stuff I didn't like, to be honest, and I'd like to know what you're talking about."
We talked about your girlfriend. Why?
"I know that. I just want to know why y'all started to talk about her." And this is where Anne becomes passive-aggressive.
We were talking about her father at first and ended up talking about her.
"Yeah, but why?"
Well, because. Why do you want to know my conversations?
"Because you talked about my girlfriend's anorexia when she was young and made fun of it."
I didn't make fun of it.
"Yes, you did."
No, I didn't. So if you don't want to believe me, you can just go frick yourself.
Hangs up the phone. As soon as she hung up the phone, I sent her an audio telling her I was sick of her behavior, and with the stories coming back to surface, I felt like it was appropriate to cut ties with her and proceeded to block her on all social media. Mind you, every time she does something like that, she has the same reaction, so I'm honestly done with her perverted narcissistic behavior. I've done enough, and I'm done. But this phone call was about to be Anne's downfall without her even knowing it. That's why I'm putting this whole context. It's the domino effect for what's gonna happen next. Not even 3 minutes later, my mom forwards me an audio of Anne screaming at her hysterically, telling her to mind her own damn business, that my mom is hypocritical and can't keep her mouth shut. After some back and forth, Anne decided to block my mom because she doesn't want to be on her side and prefers to listen to me. Mind you, Anne doesn't know that at this point, her essay on Steph has been known by my mother, my biological father, my ex-stepfather, brother, sister, uncle, and more. We decided with Steph to talk to everyone privately, one by one, and let us deal with Anne when she's comfortable enough. And making everyone aware one by one made her win a lot of courage, and when Anne decided to block my mom and act like a victim, a switch went off with my baby sister. Now, I'll be paraphrasing again because she sent a 2-minute audio on Messenger to Anne, but here's basically what she said.
Hi, Anne. First of all, I want to tell you that we're all done with how you treat us. You put us down to put yourself up, and we all see clearly in your game. I also wanted to let you know that everyone knows what you've done to me when we were kids. They all know the repeated essay, and that's why the mood was off at Christmas. Expect this to be my last words to you from now on. frick you, and burn in hell.
The last 6 words are really what she said, and I gave her a high five on this because she felt so good getting this off her chest. Since then, Anne has been trying to reach out to common friends to make herself the victim in the situation. She admitted to my mom that she did abuse Steph when they were kids, but it was just a one-time thing, the day after her father essayed her, which, knowing the timeline, doesn't make any sense. She said she realized how disgusting it was after doing it, but at first she didn't know because her father used to tell her it was a special kind of love. And she repeatedly said, "Sorry for being such a monster like my father." So she's really playing her violin while on her devil's act. So now we've all cut contact with Anne because this is going too far. She's trying to reach out to as many friends we have in common possible, and we're trying to fix the damages of that. We recommended to Steph to deactivate Facebook and Instagram for the next few days since we're getting flooded by family and friends about the stories. We don't want her to go back to it while Anne just keeps yapping around, making herself look like the angel when she's clearly the devil. But what can we do about it outside of that? It's blowing out of proportion really quickly. We're keeping all the receipts just in case, but this is getting overwhelming and we're lost at this point. Now you think it ends there. Steph finally confronting her abuser, and everyone just immediately being sick of Anne Schmidt now. Apparently she's always been kind of annoying and tedious. The fact she would show this behavior once again regarding OP's girlfriend, well, that was the final straw. Finding out she abused your younger sister, oh, that's fun. But make some snarky comments, well, that's beyond evil. I don't know, different strokes for different folks, I guess. But okay, now here's the thing. There's some other comments OP leaves that are basically updates. So someone argues, hey, she was a kid and didn't know what she was doing at the time. She was a victim. She's not making herself be one. I mean, you were accusing and punishing her wrongly. You all desperately need therapy, not when the time is right. You need it now. To which OP was quick to respond, well, that's what we all thought. But then we had a talk with Anne, and that's what she proved to us. She knew exactly what she was doing, which sounds like some revelations were made, but it still makes people respond like, okay, so she was a 9-year-old abusive mastermind? Like, are you hearing yourself? Others saying that, no, she did not know what she was doing. Doesn't matter what she said or what she thinks she knew. A child her age is simply not capable of knowing it. To which the OP happily drops the revelation they've learned. Actually, no, you don't know her. We've spoken to her, and she admitted she knew she intimately abused her little sister and that it would traumatize her. She told us, since Steph has always been the favorite of my mom, she wanted her to suffer. We are actually starting legal procedures since she messaged us those exact words and admitted to doing it willingly. Believe me, we thought for the longest time she never knew the consequences of her actions, but she did know and has absolutely no remorse. She even admitted abusing other people throughout her childhood, teenage years, and adulthood. At that point, she's a predator and has always displayed predatory behavior. We were just blind to it. I can't display too much information for legal purposes, but believe me, she knew perfectly. They add on in other comments that, like, apparently Anne has always been kind of a mean and a bully. She had to change schools a lot because of her behavior, but we always thought it was because of her biological parents with all the abuse and stuff. And even adding on to the fact that apparently the abuse by her bio father was lies, which is kind of an insane stretch. Because if that's true, then how the hell did OP's mother get any sort of justification or validation to rightfully adopt her? Going on that, it is strange that previously OP was all about trying to be fair and balanced about the whole situation. Understand that Anne's a victim too. But yeah, the moment the girlfriend is brought up in a conversation on the side, well, yeah, no, apparently that's the last straw. But I guess OP here is trying to imply that they've been trying to just tolerate Anne for a long time. So I don't know really how to take that. Going on to say that every time they heard something bad about her, Anne would turn it around to make herself look like a victim. And of course, since she was treated like family, they kind of took her words for granted. But now they completely regret all of it. Ultimately saying that you can think the story is BS all you want, but it's been boiling in them for about 23 years. So yeah, take that how you want, but where does that leave you? Because it gets some comments like this that I kind of understand where they're coming from. So your mom was legally able to adopt her even though she was totally making up all those things about her bio dad, right? Oh, but she was just a victim who you could forgive and try to move forward when she was actually assaulting your little sister at 9 years old, who is assaulted in many ways and many times a child herself. Oh, but your precious little partner was talked about to your crazy, dysfunctional, abusive mom who sat there and watched you get beaten for 10 years by her partner, and all of a sudden, the 9-year-old victim herself is a diabolical, evil mastermind who's been running strings on everybody this whole time. Sure, your whole family needs to just go no contact with each other, and you all need to check yourselves into different mental hospitals. So yeah, Where does that leave you of an opinion? End of the day, I think this comment summarizes it well. The last couple of posts just seem to justify being an a-hole to Anne. The whole, as she called your girlfriend fat thing, from a borderline person with a grudge, is a thing you should take with a grain of salt. Also, if anyone is at fault, it is the mum. She took a traumatized 9-year-old in without being able to properly care for her. So yeah, a long, crazy one, but entertaining, I suppose. I think with that said, we should end things there. I think I need at least 2 cups of tea to drink this one down. I don't know about you, but anyway, you be good. Love your face. Make sure you drink some water after that one. And I'll see you next time.